of life and human-oriented and centered technologies,
которые, надеюсь, в краткосрочном будущем будут являться основой научного коллектива Высшей школы сервиса и торговли, способного завоевать известность в мире высоким уровнем исследований в данном направлении.
which I hope in the very short-term future will be the basis of the research of team of the Graduate School of Service and Trade, capable of gaining recognition in the world with a high level of research in this direction.
Ускоренная цифровая трансформация общества и экономики большинства стран мира, с одной стороны, способна решать глобальные и национальные проблемы человечества, а с другой – обострить множество из них.
So the accelerated digital transformation of the society and the economy of the most countries in the world, on the one hand, can solve global and national problems of humanity, but on the other hand, can sharpen many of them.
Среди решаемых проблем следует отметить автоматизацию рутинных процессов, формирование новых бизнес-процессов, внедрение цифровых продуктов и прорывных технологий, создание сквозных технологий, эффективное налаживание коммуникаций, увеличение скорости принятия решений.
Among the problems to be solved, it should be noted the automation or even robotization of routine processes, the formation of new business processes, the implementing of digital products and innovative groundbreaking technologies, the creation end-to-end technologies, effective communication, and the increasing speed of decision-making.
Однако, одновременно обостряются такие проблемы, как кардинальные изменения на рынке труда и необходимость переобучения, проблемы цифрового неравенства людей, организаций, стран, развитие электронной преступности, манипулирование базами данных и другие.
However, at the same time, some problems are escalating, like the huge drastic changes in the labor market and the need for retraining, problems of digital inequality of people, organizations, countries, development of electronic crime, manipulation of personal data of citizens, and others.
А отдельные возможности и угрозы цифровой трансформации будут осмыслены значительно позднее.
And some individual opportunities and threats will be comprehended much later.
Поэтому чрезвычайно актуальной представляется задача выявления и оценки глобальных вызовов цифровой трансформации, которой посвящена наша конференция.
Therefore, the task of identifying and assessing the global challenges of digital transformation, which is on the focus of our conference, is extremely relevant.
Желаю продуктивной работы на конференции, постановки и решения новых научных идей и задач.
I do wish you productive work at the conference, stating and finding the solution for the new scientific ideas and tasks.
Thank you very much. And dear participants, I would like to pay attention all the information about our tracks and plenary session and keynote speakers available on a digital agenda with clickable buttons in order to log in Zoom. And now I would like to give the floor to Professor Nelly Kozlova in order to present the first keynote speaker and start the discussion and moderation of our plenary session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now it's my turn to give the greeting words and lots of thanks to all the participants of our conference, our distinguished guests, our colleagues, and a special thanks for conference organizing committee and scientific committee. So welcome to our conference, and global challenges are on the focus of today's discussion. So I do believe that we have quite a backlog of topics for sharing And I hope that our conference will be vibrant, intense, and frank. And my privilege and my great honor to introduce our first keynote speaker, our keynote speakers, in fact, our colleagues and good friends from Thailand, from Stanford International University. So please greet Professor Dr. William Wall. Professor Wall has a doctorate in management studies with a concentration in strategic management of global competitive advantage. Professor Wall has lectured at numerous universities around the world, including United Arab Emirates, Myanmar, Thailand, and the United States. Dr. Wall is an assistant president of Stanford International University, a Salk Learning Center, head of the Graduate School of MBA and doctorate studies in Bangkok, Thailand. And my great pleasure, greetings, Dr. Wall, and my special greetings to Dr. Bilal Khalid. Dr. Khalid is, greetings, is a very active participant in a wide range of topics of international collaboration between Peter the Great St. Petersburg Polytechnic University and MITL Business School. Dr. Khalid is an author of a long list of scientific publications published in prestigious scientific journals, and he is one of the leading and very passionate professor for teaching abroad. Dear colleagues, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I think that was way too much, and getting all this greetings and the positive message from your side had made my day. So just to give you a brief overview about myself, my name is Dr. Bilal Khalid. You can also call me Dr. BK. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to have this, online or hybrid format of GDTM 2021 conference. Wish you all, a very happy good morning to all my dear colleagues, participants, dear students who have joined this, great international conference. And I hope, this could have been much better if we would have attended, personally, face to face. We could have live, interaction amongst the colleagues, and we can visit a beautiful city, St. Petersburg, and the beautiful country such as Russia. As my colleague has already explained, I am affiliated with KMITL Business School, which is one of the top leading top 10 business schools from Thailand and ASEAN. And I graduated from Stanford International University. And today I'm very honored that Dr. William, who is also the assistant president, and I'm the Stanford alumnus. So we all are together on the same platform, and very happy that St. Petersburg, Stanford International University, and KMITL University all are together, working on towards the development of international curriculum for MBA, PhD, not only to train and help students to learn theory, but also from the industry experiences, not from one particular continent, but from different continents, share their knowledge, share their expertise, so that our students can prepare for the upcoming future, which is definitely, very complex and very challenging. I am very happy once again. Thank you so much for all, a great welcome. And I hope we could see each other by the time we have, the next event or being organized in St. Petersburg. Thank you so much. Swadikap.
Yes, and I would like to extend my thanks also to Peter the Great, St. Petersburg Polytechnic University, for the invitation. I want to thank Sergey for his intervention to get me here. This is, like BK said, something where it would be much more enjoyable if we were face-to-face, but at these times we do what we have to make things happen. This, I think, is a great opportunity for us to work with colleagues in different parts of the world, different experience, different ideas, different ways of doing things that make our lives hopefully easier, make our lives better, and enrich the opportunity that students have when they meet with us in the classroom. As Dr. BK mentioned, we're getting a little bit more away from theory these days and integrating industry into our classrooms. In Stanford right now, we have programs called co-branding, where we bring industry into the classroom, and in our particular curriculum, we teach 8-week courses. These 8-week courses are conducted so that 2 of the weeks are instructed by industry professionals. They come in from the industry, add their expertise, add their timely experience to the classroom. And instead of giving students theory, we're giving them real world exposure. I think it gives us more credibility. It reinforces whatever it is we're trying to get across to the students. And it also helps us broaden our own experience and our own knowledge by listening to people like this. So we found it to be a very, very productive opportunity. And it also indirectly gives you a marketing opportunity. This way, people come back and they say, wow, you know, Stanford or wherever this university might be that you're working in is unique. They're allowing us to come into the classroom and share our experience and maybe provide a marketing opportunity for you to get some of their employees to come into your university to study. One of the things that we've done as far as curriculum development is we've developed short courses where, let's say you've got somebody that's 20, 25 years in business experience. They don't need to do a lot of research courses and things like that, but they want up-to-date information like digital marketing or some kind of technology upgrade. So we offer that. We offer them a program where they can come in, they can take 4 or 5 courses. They credit bank those courses. So if they do want to go for a full MBA, they can use those courses in the future. But I'm getting off the track here. What I want to say is a very big thank you for inviting me. A very big thank you for organizing this conference. I'm looking forward to sitting in on some of the sessions and hearing from some of the other professionals that are here today, and maybe enlightening myself on some new technology. You know, I hate to say it, but some of my students ask me how I ever got through university without the internet. And I told them that we had this black hole that we used to call the library. And they were just amazed that, you know, you could learn anything that wasn't on the internet. So anyway, with that being said, I don't know, do you want me to proceed with my keynote speech now, or do I turn this back over to the MC? Hello?
Yes, thank you so much. Can I announce the topic of your presentation? Improving the quality of life in the context of digital transformation. And thank you for giving us so many insights regarding your attitude for modern teaching.
You're very welcome. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, I've got a short PowerPoint that I'll go through and I'll be discussing as we go through it. If you have any questions, I would prefer to save them to the end, if you could. So without further ado, I will share. Okay. All right. Can everyone see this?
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, good. Then let's proceed. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, everything is perfect.
Good. All right. One of the other jobs I have in Thailand here is not just as assistant professor. I'm also a senior consultant for one of the Thai public companies here. And I think this lends itself to the advantage of combining industry with education. One of the things that has been a huge adjustment, and I'm sure this is applying to any country in the world, one of the things that is applied is this need to change. So what I'm going to be talking about this morning is basically where we are now, where we're going to be going, and what we should do to stay alive. Okay, so first thing to look at here is who basically has been affected by this virus situation that we have. Now, obviously, we've had to adjust our lifestyle quite a bit. I'm not sure about Russia, but in Thailand, we still have curfew. We have to be in the house at, now it's 10 o'clock, it used to be 9 o'clock. We are not allowed to go to restaurants that serve alcohol. None of those restaurants can do that. Some of the shops and businesses have just recently opened up. But what I have here is basically a diagram of some of the businesses and how they've been affected. Now, if we look at the ones that have really been affected the most, obviously for Thailand, actually, tourism is about 25% of the GDP. This has absolutely been devastated. So in turn, all the associated industries, airlines, cruises, lodging, you know, even entertainment like movie theaters, all of these have been affected. Now, that's based on physically going to these places, traveling, making arrangements. Thailand is notorious for paperwork. If you're coming to Thailand, you better be ready with your papers or you're not going to be coming here at all. The next area that's affected basically has been charitable giving. Again, people aren't able to contact a lot of these charitable organizations, maybe that they physically went to in the past, making it a little more difficult for the charitable organization itself to sell the project or program. Fast food, initially they were affected, but now with things like Grab Taxi, Grab Food, Grab Delivery, you know, people are getting used to more and more online ordering. Mobiles, mobile telephone devices. For a long time here, we've had the malls closed. Electronic media was still able to be accessed, but access to getting to a shop that sells products like telephones was very limited. Now, the other side, the more positive side, who's benefiting? Well, supermarkets. People are a little bit in panic mode when they first hear about a curfew or restrictions on travel. And so they're going to stock up. They're going to go out, they're going to buy, maybe bulk buying to make sure they don't run out of food. General merchandising from online services have been very affected positively, because if you can't get to the store, you've got to have some means to get produce and whatever you need to live on a daily basis. So the next most, I'll call it reasonable thing to do is get on the phone and order what you need. Home improvement. Home improvement's a big thing. People are living at home now, working at home. Pretty soon they walk around and they look at their house and say, wow, nothing's changed. I want change. Maybe it's either clean the house, paint the wall, whatever it is. Alcohol use is up. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think I've changed at all with that aspect, but for some people, maybe being home more, they want to drink more. Video streaming, just like we're doing here today. definite improvement. It's one of the ways that we are communicating more effectively today. Think about this. Without the internet, where would we be? First of all, we wouldn't be talking like this, all right? But video streaming is really, really important part of our lives today, especially in business and education. One of the last things we look at is food delivery. Obviously, we need to eat. Food delivery is something that is sustenance for life. So this has been affected in a positive way. In a negative way, the restaurants that rely on customers that showing up face-to-face have been really, really hurt. I'll give you an example. In Bangkok, over the last 18 months, some 50,000 restaurants have closed. Now, this is anything from like a brand name to a mom and pop shop, all right? Okay, so let's move on. How have our spending habits changed? Well, what are we buying more of? We're home more, so we're spending a little more on personal hygiene. You know, we're spending a little more on being healthy, trying to eat well so that we're not affected by the virus. And maybe we're even getting tired of the house being dirty, so we spend some time cleaning up. Now, the other side of it is we look at the 30% that are doing what they call panic buying. They're online shopping because they think they might run out of something. They're home streaming because they need to find out what's happening with my relatives or my friends. And the other thing is they've increased their food delivery, obviously because food delivery is necessary to survive. Now, I have one quick question. How do I show the rest of the screen? I've got all the videos here, all the screens. All right, what I'm going to continue with here. So what are people buying less of now? Well, probably alcohol beverages, because most of the time when people go to a restaurant, they might have alcohol with their dinner. Luxury items are a big thing because people are afraid now. If you look at the number of people in Thailand alone who have lost their jobs, it's huge. People aren't going out buying luxury items because they're starting to save again. They want to make sure they have funds in case they lose their job or in case their job is downsized. The last part, and I don't quite understand this, but people are buying 21% less meat and seafood. Maybe because it's expensive, and again, they're trying to save. Now, we go over here. Over on this side, we're looking at holidays. Obviously, people are traveling less. And over here, we're looking at people eating out less. So our spending habits have changed quite a bit. Some of it's, in my opinion, some of this is out of fear of loss, both of job and of income and maybe where you live. And the other part of it is going out in public. There are a lot of people who still have to be vaccinated, and even people who are vaccinated still are in a mode where they're a little bit concerned about contracting the virus. So this is just an example I wanted to share with you. This is about how important it is to deliver good service, whether we are face-to-face with a customer or not. And I think probably all of you can relate to this particular scenario. A car got brought into a body shop for repairs. And so they had the person fill out the document, handed it in, and they said they would call back when they're ready to get the car and fix it. Customer waited 2 weeks, didn't hear anything. So the customer calls back and finds out what's going on. And they were informed that the customer appointment department didn't notify anybody as to when the car was supposed to be delivered. On top of this, while the customer's on the phone line goes dead. So now the customer goes back to the website and tries to use the contact form. And what does it say? provide all your details again. Press submit. My point in telling you this is your online customer has to be as well organized as the one you see face to face. Otherwise, whatever you do, if you can't do it well online, it's pointless. So the reason I brought this up, I think all of us have been there. I know I've had experience with this where you call, you hold and hold and hold on the line, and pretty soon it goes dead. You call back and it's like, press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3 for this, press 4 for that, and you finally give up. Okay, on we go. So what do we do now? What do we do today? What do we do for the future? Most of what takes place in our lives today takes place virtually. We need to be online if we want to stay in business. I'll give you a good example. My partner and I just opened a new coffee shop in Bangkok. And the old coffee shop was great, little takeaway place, did great business. The new technology that we're using now is to have electronic delivery service. This is the way you stay in business. You can't just sell coffee to the walk-in person. You've got to be able to touch more people. And the way to do this is technology. So my phrase, it's go digital or go dark. And I think you can see this even in your own countries, even in the cities you live in. There are some companies that just have not adjusted to this, and without the adjustment, there is no business. I think where we are now is we've had digital technology for quite a while. We've been able to communicate with this for a long time, but now we've had to refine it. So we're able to get to the customer, we're able to get to our colleagues and address problems, situations, and most of all in business sales. So this is a reality check for a lot of businesses. A lot of companies weren't prepared for this. This virus thing happened overnight, and the shutdown of facilities was such that, you know, you can't do a lot of this technology hookup overnight. You've got to be ready. So companies that are totally unprepared were having problems. The problem here is trying to do this too fast can be dangerous because, as we all know, try to do something too quickly, a lot of times we make mistakes. We oversee things that in some cases are very obvious. All right, so what do we do now? What do we do now? Just like this conference is talking about today, digital transformation. What is the case for digital technology? First of all, it shouldn't be terribly expensive. Just like today, we're meeting on Zoom. Okay, it's a free service. At Stanford, we use something called Blackboard Collaborate. It's a great system. Unfortunately, it has limitations and it's also quite expensive, but we use it and it's effective. The point being is, for every company that's out there, there are options at different expense levels. You need to be able to select one that fits into your resource budget. Now, one thing we look at too is saving money. Many times, things that were done manually can now be done online. Things that required people to keep track of books, keep track of finances. Now that can be done online. Information can be sent back and forth. Meetings, just like we're having today, can be done online. Just like we saw before, airlines have been really hit for, let's say, business travelers now, because people are realizing they can have conferences online. They can talk to customers online. They can get just as much done online as if they travel for half a day, go to see the customer, maybe spend the night in whatever country or city they're in, and then come back. So the savings can be dramatic in some cases. Today, I think the easiest way I can say this is businesses don't have a choice as to whether they can reinvent themselves. You either have to do it or you die. A lot of companies just say, no, we're going to stay same. We've been doing the same thing for years. Why should we change? Well, they may find out the hard way. One example I can give you in Thailand, there's a powder that people use for, it's not a cosmetic product, but it's something to keep the moisture in your face. It's a treatment for acne. This product has been around for about 80 years right now. And the only thing they've changed is a little bit of the packaging. That's one of the few examples that I've ever seen where people don't have to reinvent their business. It continues on. But we don't have a choice today. If we don't reinvent ourselves, tomorrow, the guy next door is going to do it, and we're going to be out of business because he's going to take all of our customers. Okay. You hear people talk about the new normal. That's because there probably will never be what we used to know as normal. Now, that being said, we dealt with SARS, we dealt with the flu, we've dealt with a number of contagious diseases. Our lives seemingly went back to normal. But when you think about it, now, because there's always this potential threat of a virus or some other malady that we encounter in our lives, we may be more careful. We may not just say, oh, it's a cold, or we may not just say, oh, heavy rain, but the flood won't come to our house, that kind of thing. I think we need to be much more conscious of our environment. Okay, so what's going to stay with us now from today into the future? Remote work arrangements. Companies are finding out every day that, wow, you know what? That office that has 100 employees in it, we don't need an office that big. 50 of our employees can work at home and get the same thing done that we've been doing all along. Digitization of customer service. Like I was saying before with the coffee shop now, we keep track of who comes into the shop. We keep track of repeat customers. It's the same reason you have member cards when you go to a store. They want to keep track of what do you buy and what's your cycle of buying. This way they know what to stock. There's a big shift to e-commerce. I don't have to elaborate on that. We are using e-commerce more than ever just because we have restrictions on where we can go. Greater use of self-service. I don't know if any of you have had the pleasure. We have some supermarkets in Thailand here where you can do self-checkout. I will admit I am not a technological genius. In fact, I may be technologically impaired. But to go through a self-checkout is an experience, I can tell you that. All right. Contactless delivery service. You probably read about Amazon. They're experimenting now with drone delivery on certain packages. Outsourced IT. Good example, a company I do consulting for. We outsource the technology. We outsource people because to have a technician necessarily sitting in the office all day long isn't necessary all the time. Again, what I was saying, customers spending less and saving more. I think for some people, this is a big wake-up call because many people don't have savings. I'm shocked when I ask sometimes in a graduate school class, how many people have 6 months of savings, 3 months of savings, a month of savings? How many have savings at all? And most people that I encounter have very minimal, if any, savings. It's a bit shocking. Okay, our focus on safety, cleanliness, and health goes without saying. We try to prevent getting sick, so we take more measures in how we maintain a healthy and safe lifestyle. The last thing, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but bulk buying and stockpiling. Like I said before, some people panic buy. They think, well, if I don't get it now, maybe it won't be available when I go back to buy it again. So they stock up on some items. This isn't necessarily happening, but in Thailand, on occasion, when governments make statements, occasionally you'll see the stores overrun with people buying, just, bulk buying. The last thing is online and on-demand platforms. Most of us today, I think, use online platforms for banking, again, for e-commerce, for communication, on-demand platforms that give us instant information, things like Google and search engines. These are being used more often because, again, people aren't out in the real world. They're stuck behind a computer. I don't want to parallel that today because I think conferences are more important than just chit chat. I'll digress here for a moment too. I watched a show recently about, they called it, what is it? Screen babies, I think it was, where they did an experiment with a kid that sits in front of a TV all day in a computer screen versus a kid that plays with blocks and goes outside and plays in the yard. And the kid that was on the screen all the time had a problem with attention disorder, just couldn't focus on anything for too long. So it was an interesting study. Hopefully none of us are in that category right now. Hopefully we use the computers as necessary and when needed, but we don't live on the screen. Okay, so what does the future look like? Healthcare, instead of what we call doc in a box before, now we're gonna have tech doc. I don't know how they're gonna do this, but maybe you'll be able to stick your head in the screen and the screen will diagnose whatever your problems are. But we're looking at more and more doctors being online, diagnosing minor symptoms. Manufacturing is going to change. Again, delivery mode, supply chain mode, all of this is going to be a little different. Real estate, interestingly enough, to help out the environment a little bit, multifamily homes are going to be a little bit more in demand, more energy saving, plus, quite frankly, we're running out of land. Okay, if you look at some of the development around Bangkok, everything that looks green is being overshadowed by cement. Now, the other thing we're looking at is what they call co-working spaces. And you've probably seen this as well, where these are spaces you can go in and rent for a temporary basis and not have the need for a formal office. Retail is up more and more. Retail is being done online. It's easier, more accessible for more people. This is going to be a boom also. And then financial services are one of the last items. This has been going on for quite a while. There's a lot of online banking. For instance, I do stock trading online, do banking online. You can get investment advice online. The financial world has basically pretty much been digitized. I'll make a statement here that some of you probably can't get over, but in Thailand, you still need your bank book. You can bank online, do transactions online, but if you want to go in and do a transaction in the bank, you've got to have your bank book. It's almost inconceivable. I remember having that when I was a kid, but some places it just takes a little longer to catch on. Anyway, last but not least, in summary, we need to look at risk management. It is strategically important. You know, we have calculated risk in business. We have calculated risk in education, but we need to look to the future. We just cannot keep doing the same. Resources might be restricted either through just reduction of use of resources, or, for instance, in the university, we've had to cut back on staff. In the company, we've had to cut back on staff. So some of our human resources have been reduced. We need to reprioritize what our intentions are here. What do we need to do now? What do we need to do now? New problems crop up all the time, and they're not going to go away the way they used to. Sometimes we could just forget about something and it would disappear. Today, with our digitization, with the speed of information that travels, we can be affected overnight, and we have to be ready for this. That being said, we also have to look long-term. How does what we do today affect what we're going to be doing tomorrow? None of us have a crystal ball, but you know, at the end of the day, whether it's business or education, we have to look at a process that we'll call an educated guess to minimize the risk. So what do? We experiment. Yes, that can be dangerous. Some cases it can be unfortunate. But if we do this little by little to innovate, to change, the risk will be minimized, and hopefully taking that risk will be successful. If we do these things, it's not a guarantee, but maybe it's a wake-up call for us to be more aware, to be more flexible, to be more focused on that customer that we want to keep coming back, to keep our business alive, to keep our business viable, and to keep us in a situation and an environment where we have a very definite competitive edge. So I thank you for your time. Thank you for your listening. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. Also, I'll do a little plug here at the bottom. If you want to find out more about some of the research I've done, you can go to ResearchGate and look up my profile. But thank you very much for the opportunity. I really welcome the chance to speak to you. And I wish you all the success for a very good and informative conference today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wall, for an outstanding presentation, very informative and full of details. Thank you so much. And now the questions, please. So I suggest just push up and introduce yourself and ask the questions. Are there any questions in our chat? No? So any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. Is it suitable time for me to talk?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Okay. I'm fighting with a very strong sunlight here, so this is why I have my eyes closed. I work on a very similar field of research, William, and I found your insights into pervasive technology and how we deal with it to be particularly insightful. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I have a question about how we have produced a theoretical underpinning around this field of research, which leads us to believe that technology and technological innovation should be interpreted in a very positive way. And I feel that there's a lack of literature which looks at the actual impact on the individual and the end user. And I wondered what you thought about a rethinking of some of the literature and how we should perceive and interpret technological innovation without pretending that it's always a positive issue. I mean, you spoke about doctor in the box. We're going through the same problem with the French health system, and the British are going through the same problem too, of wanting the face-to-face personal contact, and the digital solution is not picking up on some really fatal illnesses.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And you know, the reason I brought this program up about research on children and how they react differently face to face, or you know, out in the, I'll call it the real world versus the virtual world. I think this is important because one of the primary things that we're finding out is that people are losing their ability to communicate with each other. The soft skills that I run into, I mean, I'm in charge of a faculty of 35 people, okay? I have to deal with this on a daily basis. And I'm actually appalled sometimes that I'm talking to an adult that doesn't know how to properly communicate. And I'll use the analogy, all they know how to do is throw mud, but they don't know how to, you know, gently hand somebody a pile of mud in their hand and explain what it is. And I just think it's unfortunate, but you know, I have a 13-year-old at home here, my partner's niece, and she's welded to the phone, you know, chatting and all. And okay, she doesn't have many places to go because she's online. But I think the real drawback is having to be able to sit down with somebody like that and having a meaningful conversation. Even before this whole virus thing, I can remember going out to dinner and looking over at another table at the restaurant, husband, wife, 2 kids, each one of them is on an electronic device. My thought is, well, let me see, are they talking to each other? Or at worst, what's the point of going to dinner if you're not going to talk to them? So yes, I think there should be much more research, because I think we have been adversely affected by technology in many ways. And one of the most glaring, I think, is human interaction. Technology has a great side to it to enable us to do just what we're doing today. But on the negative side, it's also removed us from the people that we interface with, that we should interface with, and in a lot of cases with people that we love. I don't know how many times I get upset at home sometimes, and it's like, hey, put that thing away. I'm trying to talk to you.
Sure.
No?
Yeah.
But
I think we've slipped into it though. It's an eternal problem, isn't it, in academia, whereby the problem has to reach a certain level before researchers are allowed to publish on it. Because I've been publishing on children's over excessive screen time and inability to manage. Because it's not monetized business related theory, there are very few journals that will take the risk of publishing about such a big problem. I think it's outrageous. Sure.
Well, even from the example of teaching in a master's degree class or PhD class, most of the students that we have are working adults. I don't know how many times I've had to tell somebody, put the phone down. You know, one of your classmates is talking. I'm trying to talk. You know, I need you to discuss. Where's your head if you're buried in your phone? I mean, it's counterproductive. The technology is there. Granted, it's great for research if you're on Google or something like that, but at the end of the day, if you're ignoring your environment, what's the point?
For sure. Thank you very much for your insightful feedback. And I could talk until next Friday, but I'm not going to monopolize the conversation.
Well, maybe we can do a paper together and we can find that journal.
Absolutely. I couldn't find you on ResearchGate, but I'm the only Jessica Litchi there. So please look me up on ResearchGate too.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, William. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. Dear William Wall, dear professor, thank you very much for accepting our invitation to represent your report and to give us a very interesting presentation. Thank you very much.
You're
and
very welcome.
Could you please kindly advise that currently we have faced many problems due to COVID-19's restrictions.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we couldn't travel due to COVID-19 restrictions and border lockdowns,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And how can you explain that the digital transformation could provide us more opportunities for our conversation, negotiations, and developing our collaboration?
Okay. I think one of the things is just like we're doing today. You know, we're in a situation where we can talk back and forth. We can communicate with each other. I'll call it face-to-face because we can see each other. But I think one of the big things that technology helps us with is we can move documents back and forth. We have things like digital signature, digital approvals of documents, verification of documents. So from the positive side, I think this is really something that's to our benefit. And I think one of the things also is, and I'll say this honestly, I didn't know a lot about Peter the Great, St. Petersburg University that long ago, but I was able to go on the internet and I found an amazing place that has some incredible information and really interesting programs. Without technology, I would never know about you guys. We've also been able to have conversations. Sergey and I have talked from time to time, had conversations about maybe doing some collaborative work. This is beneficial because, you know, even today, I mentioned I had a faculty meeting just before the conference here. And I mentioned that I was going to be speaking at a Russian conference. First thing they said is, "Oh, you're going to Russia?" I said, "No, I wish I was. But at the end of the day, I'm able to talk to you here." Yes. You know, it's a great opportunity. And I think, just like I was saying with business, let's say, just as an example, and I don't see this as being real world, but let's say I got an invitation from your university to come to Russia. I spent all that money, all that time, travel time, everything else. I get to your university and I find out, nope, that's not what we're looking for. Now I can do that just by going out on the internet, looking at your website, maybe contacting somebody at the university and saying, "Hey, we've got some things in common. Let's talk some
Definitely,
more."
definitely.
So there you go. That's my answer.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope we could extend our collaboration. Thank you.
Definitely, definitely. You will hear from me when this conference is over, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, dear Dr. Wall, thank you so much for your brilliant presentation and for having generated so proactive discussion. I think the topic of the research is vital and of course should be expanded. And we do hope that our conference will give these opportunities for just building up the new research teams and to so deepen this research. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. My great privilege to invite the second keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Ed Overes from the Netherlands. And Professor Overes is a professor in Strategic Management Institute of Human Data Interaction in Zuid University. Professor Overes is an internationally respected professor in the field of international management. And based in the Netherlands at Zuid University, he also teaches master students in Brazil, Germany, Egypt, and at 3 of the top 5 universities of Russia, including our university as well. His research activities are concentrated in the Institute of Human Data Interaction, where he specializes in the fields of data storytelling, business process visualization, data-driven decision-making, and visual intelligence. So applying the data comic genre in these fields, he has very special interest. So his applied research examples and his enthusiasm make him a frequently asked presenter at different international conferences and roundtables. So my very, very welcome greetings to you, Professor Overes. Now the floor is yours, and the topic of the presentation is going to be using the digital revolution for integration, inclusivity, visual intelligence, data accessibility via visualization. My pardon. And dear speakers, we will appreciate a lot if you try your best to tailor the time slot of our agenda. Thank you very much in advance, and I do wish you a splendid presentation.
Okay, thank you for the kind introduction. Of course, I also would have loved to be in Russia. I think nothing beats the lunch and the coffee meetings and so on, and we can't replace them digitally. But there's also a good advantage about what's happening, because now I can share this conference also with my students. So that's why you see me talking before in front of a screen, because my students are also here. I would like to start sharing my screen so I don't take up too much of the time, and then it should be fine. Hopefully you can see now the presentation. Well, first, the introduction is I'm talking here in the name of the Institute of Human Data Interaction, because that's really key to the topic of this conference. And now it should do something, but it doesn't. Oh, there it is. So what's the Institute of Human Data Interaction? We're a playground where we would like to do really good research, applied research in data science. So my special interest, actually you already introduced, so I can be very fast here, would be data storytelling, which we will be doing. We're doing a very interesting project, I think, if we're talking about advanced applied research and visualizations. Very interesting topic, I think, but we can't cover it now, would be data-driven decision-making. But of course, that fits into the topic of the digital transformation. And the topic for today would be visual intelligence. So this would be our center in Hale, actually. And I would like to start with the discussion about the value of data, because that's, I think, would be key. And this, I think, is a very interesting statistic, because what we see here, if we look how the value of cooperation developed over time, we see that a long time ago, it was really into the natural resources, the steel, the oil companies. Those were the most valuable companies in the world. Then it transformed into that we came into the IT sector. But if you see, the current big companies are the companies who manage data very well. So if we're talking about the challenge of the digital transformation, it's managing data. At least I think that's what we can learn from this slide. So my conclusion would be that data would be the new coal or steel or gold, whatever, but that's where the real value is. So it really makes sense to start managing the data very well. However, there are some challenges in that respect. And that challenge started very long time ago. And if you look at the very first start, our very first problem with data was that we didn't have enough. We didn't have enough to make really good decisions. So the question was, how do we get data? And this is really ancient because it already started thousands and thousands of years ago. When we didn't have too much speech, the Homo erectus and those kind of things, they started drawing to start communicating. And that was the first way to start more or less storing data. And of course, afterwards, we got the book press and those kind of things, and the amount of data grew. And then we ended up in what Professor Wall called his black hole, or what we call then the library. So at some point, we had huge data. And actually, we had too much data in such a way. So we got into a new problem. And the second problem about data was not having the right amount, but it was about how can we process the data. We can't read all the books in the library, so how do we process data? And actually there, the computer and the IT really came up. And at some point, we ended up in this phase that we say, okay, the computers really helped us to start processing the data, but it also allowed us to reproduce more data. So the fact is then that yes, the processing power is increasing rapidly, but the amount of data is growing even faster. So instead of finding a solution, it actually caused a next problem. And that's the problem where we currently are. And also Professor Wall was already addressing this one. This is not about drowning in data, but the fragmented data, it's everywhere. So the example Professor Wall gave with calling the agency and then log in and so on, actually expresses the problem that we have data everywhere, but if we don't communicate well, then we as a customer feel very annoyed. So for me, this would be the biggest challenge. And the problem is this integration, the complexity of the systems, that we have data everywhere and we need to connect, that's even growing faster. So we have a huge problem managing the data. And for me, that would be the real challenge of the digital transformation of markets. How can we access data? And that's actually where I think we should start talking about. Because yes, we have all the spreadsheets, we have all the access databases, we have them. But I like this quote. I mean, extracting information, getting information from a table is like extracting sunlight from a cucumber. I mean, it's not doable. So what did we do? We invested a lot in IT. We invested a lot in all kinds of tooling to help us managing the data. What did we do? Well, more processing power. We use a lot of statistics. We have statistical analysis. We do artificial intelligence. We come up with algorithms. But did it really solve the problem? Well, for some part, yes, because it's really helpful. So we should definitely spend more here, but it also has its limitations. And I want to give you an example. If you look at this table, you see 4 sets of data. And we can start analyzing them via statistics, whether they are the same or whether they are different. But the interesting thing about these 4 tables is that they have exactly the same statistical values, the same mean, the same standard deviation, and so on. So for this kind of data, statistics and algorithms is not the solution. And that's where I want to start talking about visualization. Because if I would plot this information, we automatically see where the differences are. Yes, we see a pattern, or if we see below, we see that there's a nice pattern and there's one deviation. Statistics couldn't tell us. Visual automatically. So that's actually where it becomes very interesting, how we can access data in this way. I have some other examples, real life examples. You see here really two lines. Yes, one about the sales of hot dogs, and one of the other one is the sale of fiction books. And you see there's a huge correlation here, where in fact there is none. Because where is this data coming from? One is from a hot dog contest somewhere in the US, and the other one is about the #1 sold fiction books. Totally no correlation, but statistics show us. Another example, very high correlation between the divorces and the butter usage of persons. We as human intuitively would say, well, there's no correlation. Actually, there is not, but statistics says, yes, another one. Yeah. So what does this tell me, or what I think should tell you as well, that we should use IT, because the processing power of IT, the calculation, is very useful. But we still need at some point the human eye to make meaning out of data. And for me, that's a really important lesson. And that's where human data interaction comes in my perspective. However, we as humans also have our limitations. We can't keep up with technology, and technology can't keep up with data. So we have a real problem. But if we look at this slide, I want to look at what's the origin of this slide. Well, that's because we want to solve everything mentally. And then this slide comes along. And if you see really right below, you see the little white box. That's the bandwidth we have. So I want to show you, it's down here. That's the bandwidth we have with our brains. That's the amount of data we can process with our brains. Whereas you see the green area is what we can process with our visuals, with our sight. The blue one is the touch, the red one, orange one is the hearing. Yeah. So we as humans have much more potential than we use if we only use brains. Well, can't we use that potential? And that's what I would like to advocate. Can't we use that potential to access data? Tamara Mansner, very interesting person in this case, already stated it. The visual system provides a high bandwidth challenge of our brain. And this is the expression I would like to give. So our ancestors, when they had to describe something to the fellow tribe members, they found it very hard to describe, and they made a visual. If they would have tried to do it in writing, which they, of course they wouldn't have, they would have needed a very thick book. So this visual definitely says a lot more than we can read. So with one visual, in 1 second, we have an idea, which, if we would have to read, would take us hours. So it's very important to have a good visualization. And it's not just a picture. A visualization can also be very interactive. So it can be a video, virtual reality, it can also be infographics. To give you an example about data comics, Lego and IKEA definitely use this. They use visuals to explain. And the nice thing about this is that this is very international. But this is data comics used in business, but you can also look at infographics. This is an example we used in our research center, where a company asked, can you give us insight in which departments travel most to which destinations? And we used a lot of data, which was not really accessible, but we made this infographic. And they said, okay, now we know that there's one department going a lot to one destination, and maybe we should relocate in that sense. Yeah, so that we have less traveling. So you see that also businesses are picking up on this one. So if we use the visuals, we can access data in a very international way, and we can use it for exploration, explanation, and exhibitory reasons. So it's a very strong tool for accessing data. Another quote from Munzner, more or less saying the same thing, and it's not only Munzner who says this one, but business visualization is the first and foremost and effective way to discover and communicate complex information. And that was exactly the problem we faced, that the system became so complex that we couldn't comprehend with our brain. So the question then is, can we use, in this case, business visualization to get much more out of the data we have? Because data is not the problem. We have too much. We have a lot which we don't use. So visualization is a very effective way for data collection, analysis, and presentation. That's what I would like to, and I want to give a small example to visualize this. We are doing a very big project for a Dutch pension fund, and this is really a big pension fund. We're talking about 650 billion euros. Yeah, you can calculate it into rubles, then it's trillions, but it's a huge amount. So you can imagine that they also have a huge data. And at first I thought, okay, you know, it's the iceberg. But then I realized that actually the ocean is their data. It's not just the iceberg, it's the ocean. And now we have the problem. So a customer is calling, just as Professor Wall was expressing, a customer is calling with a very specific question. And then the call center agent is, you know, where do I find the data? It's everywhere. And I need all the data to get one right answer. And this is really a very intriguing thing. And we tried to solve it. But this was the actual case. This was our digital challenge. They had a huge systems, but in order to solve this question, they had to look at very different systems to find the right answer. Well, often it was not the right answer because we missed some data and those kind of things. So this is really the challenge, I think. This is what I would call looking for the needle in the haystack. So what did we do? We developed a timeline visualization. Within one visualization, 3 tracks. So on the top, you have the overview of the lifespan of the customer. On the second layer, in the same visual, you see all the contact moments, but you can zoom in and you can zoom out. Actually, this is not a static visualization, but this is a very interactive one. And on the third level, we could say what happens in the processes, so in the systems. So the agent would exactly know who is the customer, what is the status, and what are the contact moments, and what's happening in the factory below. And of course, we published about this, but this is based on the fish eye principle. And what did we achieve with this one visual? And actually, we achieved major results, and we're still measuring to some extent. But we saw that the functionality improved, less mistakes, so increased correctness, and more consistency, so that the customer, regardless via which way he went to APG, he got the same answer. So also improved there. For the agent, it was much more efficient. The call time definitely decreased, which means also the completion time, and they really liked the system. So in many respects, we won a lot. The customer won, APG won, everyone won. So by using, in this case, the visual, we got better, faster, and more motivating results. So the conclusion I want to have is, if we understand that the amount of data keeps growing, and I think that can be stated as a fact, and we know that we invest a lot in IT, but IT can't keep up. So we still need the humans, but we're also limited in that sense. We need to activate our most effective senses to really assess data. So for me, and that would be then the conclusion, what is the global challenge of digital transformation of markets? That for me would be finding effective ways to assess data, which means, in my case, making use of visuals to create knowledge out of data. Data is not useful, it's the knowledge we want. So use those senses, which basically comes down to visual intelligence. That was my story. Of course, if you have questions, then let me go. And if you want to follow up on this, here are some of the contact details you might find. So that's my presentation. I hope I stayed within my time frame. If there are questions, please feel free, also to the students here.
Thank you very much, Dr. Overes. That is a really phenomenal presentation and very extraordinary topic of the research. Thank you so much. We all are very, very impressed. Now, please, your questions, colleagues.
Could I ask my question, please? My name is Yuri Nurulin. I'm from Polytechnic University, professor, and the research topic of my interest is close to your brilliant presentation. That's why my question is, in your presentation, you focused on data. Sometimes you mention information and knowledge. In a discussion with my colleagues, I sometimes made them opinion that data and information, these are synonymous. It's not differences between data and information, but at the same time, we in our research consider 5 different categories: data, information, understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and then decision making. What do you think about these categories? Are you agree with opinions that data and information are similar or not? Because from our point of view, it's different categories, and visualization, your topic, is very important to convert data to information, knowledge, and then. Thanks.
I would agree with you that it's not the same. Actually, I normally use the 3 categories. So data, it's more or less, well, the raw materials. Information is the smart way of storing and collecting and gathering data. So it's an advanced level of data. But information in itself is not useful if we can't apply it, and there is where knowledge comes in. So for me, yes, you can add wisdom to that one, but data is in itself is useless. It's well, raw material. So by reorganizing it and by gathering it and put it in the right places, you create information. And once we're going to start applying the information, we gather knowledge. So I would agree with you that data and information are not synonymous, I have to say.
Thanks.
Okay, I have a question for Ed. First of all, I liked your presentation, very interesting. And I do totally agree with you. We just have too much information available now. I think it's overwhelming. My question is, do you think this volume of information that we have and this access to technology is something that affects our patients today?
I think what it affects us in that way is what they call in psychology the fear of missing out.
Yes.
That we definitely have the feeling that there's always more we need to find, that we're always insecure. Like in previous times, and I'm not considering myself too old, but even in my time, yeah, at some point you say, you know, you found it all, and then you could make a decision. Yeah. And so the insecurity increases because even if you process a lot of data, you know there is much more out there which might change your opinion a bit. So what I really think is that the excess of data and our knowledge so that we know that there is more data than we can process really creates some kind of fear of, well, missing out. Yeah. And that's, of course, it's a huge problem. So I think that's something to tackle.
Because I know on the business side, I run into this on occasion where it's people just expect instant gratification, instant information. And if you tell them, well, I'll get back to you tomorrow because it might be a complicated answer. Well, why? Why do I have to wait? You know, so yeah, I think you were right on as far as what you were talking about.
Yes, and this anxiety, the wish or the demand for quick answers also has the danger that we're making a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
Because you don't want to have the more or less image that you can't make the quick decision. People just want quick decisions because everything is online, they say. So if you can't give the answer right away, they go online, they find, well, they pick the first answer they like, and they start applying it.
Right.
Whereas I think we as academics have much more like, okay, you know, let's have some patience and look at different points of view before we come up with a more or less analyzed answer.
Right.
But a lot of people are not, and especially in business, are not willing to wait for that, because also there's the fear of missing out. That if something is asked, you need to respond right away, as you also mentioned in your presentation with innovation. Because if I don't answer today, my neighbor might do it and take away my customers.
Right.
So rather take a less how do you say it? Less researched answer, but just take the easy answer. And well, I think a lot of mistakes are created that way.
Yeah. Well, it's like Jessica brought up before too, where you know, what's the downside of technology? And I think that needs to be explored a lot more. So yeah, thank you for your presentation. Very interesting.
You're welcome.
Can I jump in with my question? It's a short one this time.
Then I have a long answer.
Thanks, Ed. You mentioned FOMO. It's something I've been working on, fear of missing out. And I recently discovered JOMO, the joy of missing out, going to that black hole library. So I think there might be some space on the research agenda for looking at people who reject the notion of FOMO, but let's wait and see what happens.
Yes.
What was your opinion of JOMO?
Well, you see much more happening, that people are taking much more time out of to start rethinking. So if Corona did something well, I think it brought us back sometimes also to the essence of things. So that we like William was also presenting in his that we want more health, we want more peace, and those kind of things. So I think people are slowing down, and that's a good thing. And in my case, I think also visualization would help, because we don't have the feeling that we need to understand everything very well, but at some point we can also start trusting our other senses and our intuition, and that in a way is also always already calming us down. So I definitely see that trend also going around.
Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, so thanks a lot again, Dr. Overes. So as I can see, of course, that is a great challenge to convert information into data, as Professor Nurin mentioned, but maybe that is not less important than to interpret the data. Yeah, and visualization, I believe, contributes a lot and helps a lot in this process. So thank you so much. Thank you for your brilliant presentation.
Welcome.
Okay, and now that's my great pleasure to welcome the following keynote speaker, Dr. Monica Hanna, Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies, Director of K.J. Somaiya Institute of Management from Mumbai, India. Monica, the warmest greetings to you, and thank you for joining us for the conference. Thank you so much. Dr. Hanna is a doctoral guide in management studies. She is an author of the numerous scientific publications published in a very prestigious scientific journals. As an honored academic administration, she has been involved in launching multidisciplinary and niche management programs in healthcare, human resources, sports, data and science and analytics. Being a very professional and passionate teacher and speaker, Dr. Hanna is frequently invited as a keynote speakers at international conferences and roundtables. Her industry experience with Siemens Ltd Mumbai in industrial automation contributed greatly in industry-based approach in programs content. Dr. Hanna has a wide international experience in guest teaching abroad and in graduate school of service and trade in particular. So, Dr. Hanna, the floor is yours, and I am happy to introduce the topic of your presentation, using the digital revolution for integration, inclusivity, and sustainability of humanity experience from India. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nelly Kozlova, for such a warm welcome. And I come from Mumbai, India. It's a little sunny today. It's also raining a bit today. And it's my proud privilege to give the keynote address here. I've been associated with your university for the past 2 academic years. And I'm really very pleased to be associated with this conference also. So thank you so much. And I seek your permission to start my presentation. I would like to share the slides.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Everything is fine. Yeah.
Thank you. So my topic, I'm coming from Mumbai, India. My topic is using the digital revolution for integration, inclusivity, and sustainability of humanity, experiences from India. So this is the flow of my presentation. I'm going to talk to you about a paradox called India. One is about the digital India, and the other is about the rural India. As all of you must be knowing, India is still almost 70% of India is still rural. The next part would be about integration and inclusivity initiatives leading to sustainability. So I'm going to talk about the handloom and the handicraft section of India, which came to a complete standstill during the past 1.5 years of the lockdown. How marketing opportunities have been created through corporate social responsibility, that is the schemes of the Tata Tea, events to integrate rural and urban India, online and offline platforms for integrating rural and urban India, and integrating rural India with the world, design school for the artisans, using local art and advertising by multinational corporations, rural India tourism initiatives, how do we involve the differently abled, and my conclusions. So opportunity in the paradox called India. So as you know, this is about digital India. Just to tell you, we are a 1.3 billion population. Everyone's aware of it. After China, we are the most populated country in the world. This is our total population, and around 35.2%, that's the latest data, is urbanization. And as I told you, a huge chunk, almost more than 65 to 70%, is still rural. But if you just see the mobile connections, there are 1.1 billion mobile connections. That is 79% of the population has a mobile connection. There 45% of the population, or 624 million, are internet users. And many of them are using the internet through the mobile phones. They all have smartphones. And active social media users are 32.3% of the population. That's around 448 million. This shows that whether it is an urban or a rural India, we are all connected. And after the highways and after the roads and the railways, the digital connection is one thing which integrates the entire India. So internet users in India, 624 million internet users, and number of internet users in India increased by almost 8.2% between 2020 and 21. That shows a huge jump in the connectivity of the population, and the penetration of internet stood at 45% as of January 2021. This actually shows that there is a huge amount of opportunity for doing something with the population. Now, the social media, as I've already told you, 448 million social media users in India, and the number of social media users actually increased by 21% between 20 and 21 year. And the number of social media users in India equivalent to 32.3% of the total population in January 2021. If you see the base of 1.3 billion people, these are huge numbers, and these are all opportunities for entrepreneurship, for doing business, and for integrating the rural with the urban India. Mobile connections in India, almost 1.1 billion mobile connections, and the number of mobile connections in India increased by 2% between Jan 2020 and 21. And number of mobile connections in India was equivalent to 79% of the population. So you can just imagine what is the growth and what is the connectivity. Indian online retail is about to grow to be the third largest market by scale, and it will be almost a $55 billion market in the calendar year 2021, and almost $350 billion in another 10 years, in line with a report by a company called as Redseer. So you can imagine what are the possibilities with the explosion of the internet and the mobile devices and the growth of the online retail. On the other hand, if you see rural India, you can see there is poverty. In India, if you actually see poverty and excellence goes hand in hand. So there are more than 49,000. There are those areas with a population of less than 49,000. That is the tier 3 and the tier 6 cities. And it is generally said that the rural areas house up to 70% of India's population. Rural India contributes a large chunk of India's GDP by way of agriculture, self-employment, services, and construction. So I talk about these two data pieces, and I talk about integration and inclusivity initiatives, which would lead to sustainability of humanity, and especially with respect to the Indian population. Now, I'm talking here about the handloom cluster specifically, as I told you, because in the last 1.5 years, the handloom sector had come to a complete standstill. Now, if you see the handloom clusters, these are our traditional art and craft, And what I'm going to tell you is how we are going to integrate all of this with the help of the digital revolution. If you can just see, this is a map of India, and every part of India has our traditional art and craft, and especially these handlooms. Each of the states of India has something very, these are all traditional. This is all passed along knowledge, and it is there around for time unknown or immemorial times. And each of them is a piece of art in itself, and there is a huge amount of scope for using this as a economic engine for growth. So you can just imagine, in every part of India, these are the traditional knowledge and the fabrics that are being created by the local population. They are all uneducated people, and what they work on is all pass along knowledge which has come through the generations. So we have almost 470 handloom clusters, out of which 240 clusters have less than 1,000 handlooms, and 230 clusters have more than 1,000 handlooms. And the type of handloom clusters that we have are small clusters, medium handloom clusters, mega handloom clusters. Now, handloom means the textile is manufactured by hand and there is no machinery. These are not power looms, but these are all handlooms. So we have beautiful handlooms that are there from every part of the country. If you just see, as I told you, poverty and excellence go hand in hand in India. And many of these artisans, they don't have education, they are not educated, and they get exploited by the middle people. Many of the artisans and especially the children, the next generation is getting educated, and they are moving out into industries, the local industries that are coming up. Thereby, the traditional art and craft is also being lost. The reason for them to move out is because they get better salaries and better facilities in the industries that are coming up in the local areas. However, the artisans are recognized as the backbone of the non-farm rural economy, according to the official figures. And we have 7 million artists in India engaged in craft production to earn their livelihood. Now, this is really something, these people, they need our intervention in terms of the digital revolution that we all have. Why should the fruits of digital revolution only be restricted to the urban markets and to the urban population? And why not this can be extended to the rural areas so that their economic progress happens, and they also, there is a rise in their economic benefits. So there are various export houses, everything is very fragmented here. So this is what is being exported in India. And the recent developments is that there is a realization of preserving of our traditional art and craft, and especially, as I told you, due to the lockdown, there has been a complete standstill to this sector. There are supply side issues of raw material because of the lockdown. And also there is a demand side issue because of poor marketing opportunities, and they are not able to come up and inform about their traditional art and craft to the urban population. There's lack of working capital, there is exploitation, and there lack of education and entrepreneurial skills. So what we can do is use of the digital revolution to bring these traditional handicrafts and handlooms into the urban markets. They were creating local employment opportunities. The order of the day is to create local employment opportunities, because many of these rural poor, the artisans, the ones who have the real skill with their hands, they actually come to the urban areas, they live in the slums, and it even adds a lot to the urban stress. So some of the pictures I just brought to you to show you the beautiful stuff that these artisans create. Now this is crying for marketing. And I do believe that with the digital revolution, these beautiful artifacts and pieces of textiles can be brought into the urban households and into the urban markets and all over the world also. So you can just see each of them is one more beautiful than the other. Many of these handicrafts also have something now called as the geographic indications, because they are very peculiar to that particular region, and the traditional knowledge is being preserved through the GI indication. So as I've told you, these are all pass along knowledge and skills through the generation. And we want to preserve this traditional knowledge, and not only preserve it, but also give a boost to these traditional knowledge into the urban markets. If you just see the handicrafts, the various artifacts that are being made, again, you see each region has such beautiful artifacts, and they are just crying for marketing opportunity and intervention from the digital revolution. So these are some of the, every region has something very specific to offer. India is one rich cultural heritage region, and you will find all of these beautiful stuff that is there in India. So there is a lot of realization about this, and a lot of corporate interventions are happening, and a lot of various platforms are being created to market these. Now, one of them is through CSR, corporate social responsibility, and the Tata Group has taken it on themselves. Now, during the Independence Day on 15th August, that is just gone by a month ago. So Tata Tea, they have created something called as the Desh Ki Chai. Now, this is a local word which means the tea of the country, and they've created something called as the hashtag Desh Ka Kullad. Now, kullars are actually, they are the traditional mud pots which are made by the artisans, and each region has its own art and craft, and these mud pots, they get painted, and the Tata Tea has picked up this. So when you drink tea, you drink it in a cup. So what they're saying is that these artisans, they have lost money, they have lost employment opportunities. So they have picked up these local artisans who make these mud pots. They paint them with the local the art, and then these are being sold online. So this is a collection of 26 distinct designs. Each kulhar, that is a mud pot, represents different regions of India. There are beautiful motifs and landmarks from each region. So this is, and the money that comes from the sale of these art that is being used, it is being plowed back to the artisans for their benefit and for their growth prospects. Now, if you just see this, this is a video that is there. I don't have time, so I will just skip this. I'll just show it to you in brief. So you can just see how these pots are being made, and they are marketed through the online platforms. And whenever an urban person, whenever we are buying these pots, part of this money is going back to the for the benefits of these artisans. So you can just see they are all they are very highly talented, but they also are very poor. They are looking for opportunities, and through corporate interventions with the respected houses like the House of Charters, these people are able to showcase their talent to the international world. So you can just see at the end of the day, they are also selling tea, and that is their Tata Tea, which is a premium brand in India. So that is one of the initiatives, and this is all made in sold through the social media platforms. Okay. Another initiative that I would like to tell you about is creating of events to sell these products. So Sotheby's has recently been celebrating the Asia Week. Once again, it is through the online platforms that traditional art and craft is being reached out to the world. You can just see how these things are being sold to the world. Now, there are various online and offline platforms that have been created for selling these handlooms and handicrafts. Now, every region, as I told you, has a unique textile tradition, and so Varanasi, it's supposed to be the timeless city, among the oldest cities in the world, and they have their own textiles. And they have created there is a online platform called as Tilfi, which sells these saris which are made through the handlooms, and they are available on the Facebook and through the various other platforms. So you can just see how these are the traditional handlooms which are being sold in a very contemporary manner on the online platform. Now, thereby creating employment and opportunities for the local weavers and artisans. Now, further, if you just see, Tatas have again now created an initiative called as Tanera. That's an offline and an online initiative. So what they say is India under one roof. That is what is the positioning, and art and the beautiful textiles from all over India are showcased in their showrooms, and they are also being sold online. Okay, so this is how these things are. And because of these corporate interventions, through the use of social media, through the use of modern marketing techniques, we are able to provide employment to the local artisans. Fab India is, of course, it's very famous, and it has also got a revenue of almost $65 million, if you just see, across the previous year. What Fab India does is it sources its products from various community-owned companies, and a percentage share of this is gone back to the artisans and to the craft persons. So the products of Fab India are sourced from villages, helping to provide and sustain rural employment in India. So there are currently around 40,000 artisans who are working with Fab India. And they have stores all across the world also. We have Indian handicrafts and handlooms being sold on Amazon. You can just see this. And then they are also being sold on, so these are the handlooms and the saris that are being sold. Now, this is how, the platform, the Indian artisans are getting global platform for selling their products. Then we have Flipkart, that's an Indian website where you can see all the traditional art and jewelry and all is being sold. The toys and all are being sold on the online platform. And then there is also, now there are various initiatives to support the rural artisans. And one of them is this design school for artisans. This is from the organization where I work. They have created something called as the Somaya Kalavidya, where they teach design to these local poor artisans so that they can make contemporary designs with their traditional knowledge. So this is how it is. Okay, this is what Mother Teresa says, the fruit of love is service, which is compassion in action. And this is what they are doing. So this is the Somaya group. They've created the design school, and all of these are the textiles and the garments that are created. They are showcased on various fashion shows, and they're also available online. In fact, we as an institution, we use these shawls and the clothes that they make as corporate gifting items to the companies that come to recruit students from our institution, because we believe that the companies that come to our institute for recruiting management students, they can actually afford everything. But this is one way, by picking up these products, by picking up these shawls and handicrafts, we are able to do a sort of a CSR activity, and also to showcase their talent to the corporate world. So you can just see all these pictures. This is another Warli tribal art. This is again, it's an old art form where they make wooden toys, and these again are being sold through the various platforms, and we also use it as a corporate gifting item. If you can see, these are all the gifts, and these are all handmade and hand painted stuff. This is the shawl that we usually give to corporates who come to our institution. So then also there is rural tourism, which is being encouraged, so foreigners can come, they can spend time in the rural areas and understand the way of living. So, this is growing very much in popularity now, especially in the post-COVID world. It's all about staycations rather than vacations. And this also adds to the income and employment opportunities of rural areas. My conclusions would be the outcome of integration and inclusivity of the rural areas, the artisans and the handicrafts and the handloom sector, integrating rural with urban India through online and offline platform. We are creating market demand for traditional products through online, offline. We're preserving the local culture. We are creating local employment opportunities, thereby reducing urban migration and its concomitant problems. We are using the digital revolution for sustainability of humanity through enhanced earning opportunities. We are giving dignity of labor and self-respect to the artisans. We are encouraging social entrepreneurship. There's a rising awareness among the urban Indian youth about entrepreneurial opportunities through integration of rural and urban markets. And definitely this would lead to the rise in GDP per capita of rural India, and thereby leading to economic prosperity and growth of the country. And this intergenerational pass along knowledge and preservation of traditional knowledge is of the utmost importance. So this is like the butterfly effect. If you understand that, a small change can make a huge difference. And this is what use of technology to appeal to the urban millennials about the immense beauty and potential of our traditional art and craft. In fact, even Vogue has carried this, the Millennial Guide to Understanding Handloom, and they're encouraging the youngsters and millennials to go for such purchases. The digital platforms can actually become engines for economic growth in the local regions of rural India, thereby leading integration, inclusivity, and sustainability of the vast population of India. So this is my presentation. I think I've maintained my time. I'm open for questions. Thank you so much.
Dear Dr. Hanna, thank you so much for such a remarkable presentation with lots of insights from Indian experience, from special cases presented, case of Tata Group and the case of Somaya family as well. So, dear colleagues, please your questions.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, very quick question. Is there any government initiative to, I'll say, equalize income in India? Because like in Thailand, they always talk about it, how they're going to equalize income. And my question always is, well, are there always going to be poor people?
Yes, there are various initiatives that are being carried out by the government. And as I told you, the most important is Digital India initiative. Basically, it's an enabler. There's a lot of focus today on agri-tech, because agriculture, again, is a big part of our GDP, but it is crying for innovation and technology interventions.
Yeah.
So, slowly these things, because of the, accessibility of information and because of the technology interventions, I think it's a matter of time, maybe 5 to 10 years, where these initiatives would help out.
Okay. No, I mean, I think it's really a valuable thing because you're dealing with an asset of your company, your country. This is tradition.
That's right.
And it's one thing I like with Thailand. They have royal patronage for a lot of the same things you're talking about. And it's just for that reason. It's to give people not just credit for what they can produce, but create an environment where they can have an income and they can have a better quality of life. So yeah, thank you for the presentation. Some beautiful artwork, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to tell you that a lot of social entrepreneurship initiatives are coming up by the youngsters, especially because they're able to see there is a distinct, opportunity that's lying there.
Sure.
And I think we as urban, maybe upper income consumers, we are always looking for a little bit of uniqueness in our purchases. And these handlooms and handicrafts, they provide that little bit of uniqueness to us. And I think it's also, it's like, you're owning, it's our national pride. You're owning a part of the country and the tradition, of course. And I think there are a lot of youngsters now who are getting very interested in all these things.
Sure. Well, I know for me, one of the things that I enjoy doing when I could travel, was collecting artifacts from different countries, just interesting things that you don't see in your own country. So yeah, thank you for the presentation. Right. Very nice.
I would also like to say one more thing, that as far as India is concerned, we are rich in data. I think we need to tap this data and to do something with it.
Yes.
I think there is, like somebody was telling me, we are rich in, we may be a poor country, but we are rich in problems. And I also think we are very rich in data. We need to have mechanisms where all this information about our local rural markets can get captured, and it becomes wonderful opportunities for many sectors. Let's say whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's agricultural technology, medical technology. I mean, we are just waiting for people to reach out to these rural markets. And here, this is where data would become very important.
For sure. Yep. For sure. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much indeed. Any other questions? Okay, that's my great pleasure, Dr. Hanna, to bring lots of thanks for you once more. And thank you for sharing such interesting cases with us, how everything flows inside this very interesting channel, like integration, inclusivity, and sustainability, and how social entrepreneurship can contribute in this process. Yeah, it was really, really very interesting to discover. Thank you so much. And dear colleagues, dear participants, it's my great privilege to introduce our following keynote speaker, Dr. Professor Alexey Fadiv. Alexey Fadiv is a Doctor of Economic Sciences, Executive Director of the Association of Polar Explorers of Murmansk region of Russia. And it's my great pleasure to say that in parallel with his main activity in the oil company, Dr. Fadiv is a chief researcher at the Institute of Economic Problems of the Russian Academy of Sciences, as well as a professor of Peter the Great, St. Petersburg Polytechnic University. All his professional and scientific activities have been closely linked with the Arctic and the Murmansk region for many years. Dr. Fadiv is an author of a long list of scientific publications and is well known as a recognized expert in the field of technological development of the Arctic region. And the title of the presentation is Digitalization of Oil and Gas Complex as a Driver for Economic and Technological Development of the Projects in the Arctic. But before we start, I would like to say that we are going to invite you a little bit deeper into the Russian context, and the slides are going to be in Russian language, but the presentation is going to be in English. So let's just adjust it. And I do wish Professor Fadiv a very, very pleasant presentation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good to see all of you. First of all, thank you very much for such presentation of my activity. It's really a pleasure and big honor to be here. And I would like to express deep gratitude to the management of the Polytechnic University for invitation and possibility to share with you my point of view about digitalization of the Arctic region and projects which are carried out in this very important region. First of all, I would like to start with information that first expedition for exploration of the Arctic Ocean has been started in the 11th century, and since this time, Arctic was always in the focus of Russian businessmen, explorers, and further politics. In 1970s, Marine Arctic Geological Expedition of the USSR began exploration of oil and gas in the Barents, Chora, and Kara seas. Some fields were discovered. Some of them can be dedicated as unique fields, for example, Stockmanovskaya gas condensate fields, Leningradskaya, Rusanovskaya, etc. And as a top of this activity, the first part of oil was discharged from the platform Prirazlovnaya, which currently located at the Pechora Sea. In 2014, first oil was discharged, and the special name to this type of oil was given, ARCO, which is abbreviation of two words, Arctic oil. According to the information of the explorers, up to 25% of the whole undiscovered oil and gas reserves are located in the Arctic. No doubts that Arctic can be energy store, the region which can provide energy secure for many countries of the Europe and the world. Currently, in the Arctic, more than 60 large oil and gas fields are discovered, and 43 of them are located in the Russian sector. I would like to emphasize your attention at this slide, and would like to mention that it's not Russian investigation. Approximately 5 years ago, one of the Norwegian energy agency published information that according to the vision, up to 60% of the planning oil and gas production in 2035 will be carried out through the oil and gas fields which are not yet on the map. From my point of view, of course, Arctic can give this possibility, because in spite of the development, the green economics development of the wind energy, water energy, etc., specialists expect the increasing of demand of the oil in 18%, and for gas more than 40% up to the 2035. If we see at the undiscovered oil, you can see this picture. This is oil in the billions barrels. The different color can show you the content of the oil in the Arctic. We can see that this is quite high amount. This situation with the gas, undiscovered gas, in the Great Britain system of the measure. Of course, if we talk about Arctic, up to 80% of the content, this is a gas, approximately 84, and only 16% are located to the oil content. I would like to draw your attention to this slide. This is a scheme of oil and gas potential of the Barents and Kara region. You can see how rich the Russian shelf with different fields. Some of them are really unique. For example, Stockpiling gas condensate field can provide energy which will be enough for the total humanity in the world during 1 year and 3 months. Could you imagine one field? If energy will consume only from this field, it will be enough more than 1 year. And of course, Russian Federation has not only this field, we have many of such fields, and this is one of our competitive advantage as a country. Additional opportunity was given by delimitation of the gray zone in the Barents Sea, which was made in 2010. The dispute zone was, how can I say, was spread between two countries, and this is many kilometers of the shelf, which can be really very interesting from the oil and gas potential. Of course, if we talk about Arctic shelf, this is a really new page in the history of Russian energy companies, but it's not new for Russia itself. Currently, we have 9 regions which are in the Arctic zone officially, and the enterprises from the Arctic zone provides up to 15% of the gross domestic products of Russian Federation, and also provide 25% of Russian export. Talking about the development of the projects, of course, we have to mention some challenges. First of all, this is a harsh climate condition. Some fields are located quite far from the shoreline, and it can be opened for operation only during some months per year. We have a ice window, if we may say that. And of course, for development such field, we have to promote some legislation initiatives. We have to arrange our infrastructure. We have to supply our companies with technology. and organize our industry in accordance to the needs of oil and gas complex. Talking about some risks during the shelf development, I would like to mention, first of all, economics risks. It's well known that shelf projects has really high costs and long time for development. And of course, some companies touch the shelf projects with, I would say, not absolutely confidence with future development. Second, this is transport and technological risks. But here I would like to mention that currently Russian Federation has a unique competence because we have our platform Prirazlovne, and we have unique competence not only production of oil in the harsh climate condition, but also transportation of oil in the ice condition. If we talk about our neighbors, for example, Norway, they have a better climate conditions, they have no ice. And from this point of view, Russian Federation has a unique competence in development of the Arctic fields. And the third one of the most important, this is of course ecological risks. Everybody remember the situation with Deepwater Horizon, the platform in the Mexican Gulf, which was happened in 2010, and we have to exclude such even potential situation in the Arctic. Here you can see the maximum depths of the drilling. You can see that technology grows and gives for the oil companies opportunity to make operation at the really high depths of the water. And this technology are really impressive. Here you can see the well, which was built at the Troll field in Norway. And without any doubts, technology for Arctic well drilling can be compared with the space technology due to its complexity. Also, just for your information, this is a platform Troll. Some years ago, it was mentioned in the Guinness Record Book as the biggest platform which was ever driven by the humanity. Of course, digitalization of the Arctic shelf, of the Arctic projects, this is a real prospective area for development of the Arctic fields. All operation can be subdivided into three main parts. This is exploration, drilling itself, and production. Currently, Russian Federation has 40 intellectual fields which produce 27 hydrocarbon amount in total. Of course, one of the most sensitive area for digitalization, this is exploration. Because of this really high cost, exploration and improving of exploration gives additional opportunity for cost reduction for oil companies. And currently, such technology like big data, machine learning, VR, and 3D, 4D visualization is carried out. And according to the Wigan consulting results, the resource base of Russian Federation can be increased up to 7 billion tons of oil equivalents due to the implementation of the digitalization in oil and gas complex. Second big area, this is a drilling campaign. Here it's one of the most problematic zone because of absence of the unique standards which can be applied for this area. A lot of drilling rigs produces a huge amount of digital information, but it can be treated in a proper way. And this is one of the area for improving this situation. But digitalization of drilling can lead to the decrease of the cost for drilling up to 30 billion United States dollars. According to the also open information, up to 43% of the current oil fields has the age more than 25 years. They're increasing the oil discharging from the fields is one of the most important direction of the activity, and here implementation of the digitalization can give a sensitive profit. From day one, the oil companies has to understand by which means they have to explore the fields, by which means they have to produce the oil, how they will supply the drilling rigs and platforms, how they will rotate the stuff, where it can be organized the supply base. Other words, oil companies has to develop the sourcing strategy for attracting the transport means which can effective work in the Arctic condition. Talking about Arctic oil and gas, normally people imagine big companies, and this is normal. But up to 80% of the total scope of work allocated for the industry, for the suppliers which supply the oil and gas complex with different equipment, with all necessary materials. This is the science, this is the bank sector, education, etc. So, of course, without any doubts, Arctic projects, this is a driver of the economics, not only Russia, but also other countries. Talking about Arctic projects, we always say about sustainable development and ESG approach. Of course, we have to think about animals, indigenous people. We have to fight with pollution by carbon, and we have to coordinate the different interests between each other in order to provide the balance in development of the Arctic zone. Of course, the decarbonization of the industry, one of the most important direction, and digitalization of this area can really help Russian oil and gas complex to work with the traditional oil and gas resources, and at the same time to be in accordance with international new rules. Everybody knows, I hope, and I think about carbon fee, which have to pay Russian enterprises if they work with European Union. And digitalization this way can help to reach ecological and energetic secure. In the end of my report, I would like to say that the second part of the 21st century, Arctic can play the same role like in Persian Gulf for the humanity in order to provide energetic security. The hydrocarbon potential of the Arctic shelf estimated at the level 100 billion tons of oil equivalent, which can be considered as approximately 100 years of the production, at least, by the Russian Federation in this region. Thank you very much for your attention. We'll be glad to answer for your question.
Dr. Fadiv, thank you very much for such an impressive presentation with lots of very useful facts. So, dear colleagues, your questions, please. You are very welcome.
Можно вопрос задать?
Sure.
Можно задать вопрос, Алексей Михайлович?
Да, конечно,
Пожалуйста,
конечно.
Профессор Садчиков, я бы хотел обратить внимание на завершение его презентации, последний слайд. Мне кажется, здесь некоторый все-таки недоучет перспектив Арктики, Алексей Михайлович. Вот у вас стоит там в конце написано «на 100 лет». Мне кажется, там не на 100, там на сотни лет.
Да,
Я
уважаемый Иван
предлагаю вам в
Александрович,
дальнейшем на это
да,
обратить внимание.
вы
А так
правы.
великолепное выступление. Спасибо.
Да, спасибо большое, Иван Александрович. Мы это по самым скромным отчетам на 100 лет, 100 миллиардов тонн нефтяного эквивалента, достаточно значимая цифра. Сегодня Российская Федерация в год добывает порядка 500 миллионов тонн нефти. Простая математика уже показывает 200 при таком подходе. Но я уж так поскромничал, учитывая, что это прогнозные извлекаемые ресурсы. Вот, поэтому сократил до 100, но с большой долей вероятности соглашусь, что там, возможно, не 100 лет в перспективе добычи. Спасибо.
Alexey Mikhailovich, sorry, I have to translate the question into English. So, dear colleagues, the question was about the final slide, and there might be a little slip in the forecast of the resources of Arctic region. So on the slide, there was information that is about for 100 years, but our colleague so tried to correct that not for 100, but for many hundreds of years. And Alexey Mikhailovich, we will appreciate a lot if you give a very short English response. Thank you.
If it's possible, next question, please.
Okay, good. So the next question, please.
Yeah, Professor Ilinsky Alexander is St. Petersburg Great Polytechnic University. And Mike, first of all, thank you for beautiful presentation, beautiful report, Alexey. And my question, what are the main trends and problems of digitalization in oil and gas complex Russia? What do you think about?
Dear Professor Ilinsky, thank you very much for your question. I think one of the biggest problem for digitalization, this is the absence of the unique standards how to treat the digital information which oil companies receive from different rigs. Different rigs produce terabytes of the information, and which is not properly treated in the further. We have to create a system of the unification standards for digitalization. If we can do that, we can increase the efficiency of the digitalization twicely, I guess. This is one of the biggest problem, because from other point of view, we have intellectual potential, we have equipment, we have fields when we can implement it. So we have almost everything to be a pioneer in digitalization. Today, for example, in Gazprom Neft, already the digital twins are used in the oil fields. Drones are used. Unattended technology for storage different equipment are used. So we have to promote, increase this activity, and I believe in our success.
And sorry, finally, what do you think the Russian oil company now in modern world is the leader or outsider in digitalization? What's the place?
Of course, leaders. Of course, we have some problems, but we have really big achievements in these areas. We have to zone for promotion, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Dear colleagues, thank you for such a proactive and fruitful discussion, for so much interest for the topics presented and for your enthusiasm. Now it's time to present the certificate of appreciation for all our keynote speakers. Dear colleagues, we will send you such certificates just very soon. And now we have a chance and a great privilege to bring the certificate of appreciation for our offline keynote speaker, Dr. Fadiv.
Dear Dr. Professor Alexey Fadiv, on behalf of the organizing committee of our conference, we very thank you for your active participation in our conference, and we hope to continue our effective and successful cooperation in the future. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Okay. So it's time to take a photo of this solemn point of our conference, and summarizing what have been discussed. Me personally, I just want to bring lots of thanks to all keynote speakers first, to all listeners, to our participants, for the scientific researchers, and I think we have managed successfully encompassed so many topics regarding digitalization. We started with the current issues and the huge shift for a digital sphere, the retail industry sector, and we focused on some subsectors that suffered mostly and in the most dramatic way from COVID-19 pandemic. But we think that digital can find and support us with some win-win decisions within e-commerce approaches and m-commerce approaches. Then we discussed a very interesting topic of digital visualization and data-driven decisions. And as well, we touched even FOMO phenomena and JOMO phenomena. And I think that is like an antagonistic paradox between two polar approaches, just to fear of missing out, to follow this digitalization flow, or just to enjoy the common life and just have like a sort of digital detox. Then we invented and discovered Indian authentic approach, how digitalization can help to develop not only commercial entrepreneurship, but social entrepreneurship. And what is Taniera, and what is the interpretation of it. And finally, we also got acquainted with some specifics of digitalization within the industry of Arctic exploration. And so we were provided with some interesting insights regarding digital twins and IT solutions in management in this very industry, some challenges, risks, and so on. So as we can see, digitalization is a very perspective, and we can't avoid it, but nevertheless, human to human communication and human contribution is priceless and really precious. So that is my great desire next year to see you not digital, but face in face here in St. Petersburg. And that is our very, very kind invitation to you on behalf of our organizing and scientific committee. Thank you very much for this very interesting discussion. And we do ask you to switch on your cameras just to take the final group photo. All of us, dear colleagues, dear friends. Okay, thank you so much. Yes, and our plenary session is over. Now it's time for a very short break, and some conference tracts are scheduled in less than 20 minutes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And all the best.